Well, good afternoon and welcome back to the Enlightened Path with Kat. I'm Kat. And for those of you that have been watching the show before, welcome back. And for those of you that are new to the show, I'm glad you're checking out to see what we've got to talk about. I'm coming in from the Enlightened Path Holistic Center, which is located in Pottstown. It's up North Charlotte Street, 1494 North Charlotte Street. It's next to the Sunflower Cafe, if anybody's familiar with that. If you haven't already been in to check the center out, please stop in and say hi. It's a lot of great items in there. We've got things for sale, a lot of locally made stuff, gift items. We've got crystals, aromatherapy things, candles, a lot of locally made jewelry, knickknacks. So Christmas is coming. Think about Christmas shopping. But we also have a lot of events going on. We have a lot of different holistic and spiritual, I would say not treatments, but events daily. If you take a look at our Facebook page for the Enlightened Path and go to the events page, you'll see a lot of the different things that we have going on a regular basis, as well as the special events that we're having. For some of the regular things, we've got massage, reflexology, different types of readings, tarot readings, psychic medium readings, palm readings, crystal readings. We also have Reiki healing, which I also do a long-distance Reiki show. The third Tuesday of every month, the radio show is about sending long-distance Reiki healing out. If you're not familiar with what Reiki healing is, that's a good time to learn a little bit about it and see some of the things that it can do. If you want to stop out to the center with just some questions, we'd be happy to sit down and talk about some of the things that we do. If you just want to come in and get away from the outside stress for a little while, just to relax and get away, we have a nice area to just sit. Always nice music playing. There's usually some good incense burning. And you're more than welcome just to come in. There's always coffee on. I've always got coffee on. There's always tea available. So come in, just relax, get away from the outside for a little bit, see what we've got to offer, get to know us, come in and say hello. And some of the special events that we have, they're always on the events page on the Facebook. And you can also get to that through our website as well. And that's enlightenedpath-hc.com. And you can see a lot of more information about the center there. If you have questions, you can always give us a call. It's 484-624-8095. And again, we'd be happy to answer any questions. But if you do go to the Facebook page to check out the events, some of the things that you're going to see on top of the ones that I just listed are once a month we have a drum circle. And that's a Thursday evening closest to the full moon. We have a great group that comes out. We make a lot of organized noise, and we raise some energy, and we have a really good time. So everybody's always welcome to join us for that. If you have your own instrument, please bring it along. We use drums, rattles, tambourines, flutes, chimes, you name it. If it makes noise, bring it. If you don't have an instrument, we always have extra to share, so don't feel like you can't come just because you don't have your own instrument. Don't worry about not being able to drum. A lot of people think, I can't drum, so I'm not going to go. We've got little kids that come out. We've got older people that come out. I had never drummed before I joined the drum circle, and it's a riot. We have a great time. It's amazing how when you first start out, it may sound a little chaotic, but somehow it all just starts to flow together. Everybody seems to start playing into the same beat, no matter what instrument you're playing, and it ends up sounding beautiful, regardless of what experience you've had with any kind of drumming. We also have Rise and Shine meditation on Monday mornings at 9 o'clock. I may be changing it to 10 o'clock. Some people seem to want to join, but haven't been able to get there quite at 9, so we're thinking about maybe changing it to 10, but I'll update that on Facebook if I do. For right now, it is 9 o'clock in the morning. It's about an hour. It's a guided meditation. We'll do a little exercising at first to open up the chakras, and then I'll take you through a guided meditation, and we'll go on a really nice journey, and then we'll talk a little bit about it and share afterwards. So it's a good hour. Also, once a month we have a movie night. That's usually on a Friday. It's usually the second or third, but it does vary. So again, that's something that you'd want to keep track with on the events page. Once a month, third Sunday of the month, we have a Reiki share that's open to any level Reiki, whether it's 1 through Masters. If you have any level, you're more than welcome to come out and share with us. It's about receiving and giving, and also learning. It's great practice for those that don't get to practice it often. And it's a great way to share what you know for those of you that have been doing it for quite a while. You know, share what you know with some of the people that are just learning. I'm starting something new this week. This Friday will be our first open mic night. We're really looking forward to it. That's going to be exciting. Maybe not quite so much on the spiritual or holistic side, but in a way it is, because we are using our creativity. And we are opening our creativity chakras up, and we're sharing those gifts with other people. So we're, in a way, making it a spiritual thing. But the open mic night is open to anything that you would like to do. We'll have a mic and an amp, but for the size of the area, you may not even need that. If you have an instrument you'd like to play, if you'd like to sing, if you'd like to read poetry, if you'd like to read a chapter from a book, not, too long of a chapter, you only have so much time for each person. If you do comedy, that's anything, as long as it's within reason. In case there's children there, we do want to keep it, age appropriate. But whatever you'd like to do, musical, just poetry, it's open to whatever your gift is that you'd like to share. There's no charge for it. It's just come out and have a good time. Again, it's something new that we're starting, and if it goes well, it'll probably be a monthly thing. We'll probably do this once a month. We also have one Monday evening a month. We just had it this past Monday. We do offer a night of evening readings for those who can't get out during the day necessarily. We are also available for parties. We've got shimmy parties where we have a belly dancing class. I didn't mention that one, but we have a belly dancing class every Wednesday night, which we have a really good time at. And we do offer shimmy parties where if you're having a birthday party or bachelorette party, our dance instructor will come out, teach you some moves. She'll deck you out with some jangles and some sparkles and really make you feel special and teach you some great dance moves, some little routines, and you'll have a blast doing some dancing. But if you'd like to check that out, come on out Wednesday nights from 7 to 8 and join us for our belly dancing class. We call it goddess dance because it's not quite the real strict belly dancing. It's a little more relaxed. We have a lot of fun, great workout. You really don't realize that you're working out so much until the next day. Because we are having so much fun, and it's about letting that inner goddess out and setting her free for a little bit. We also are having a couple things revolved around Halloween. We have Saturday the 26th, that's this coming Saturday, not so much at the center, but as a group from the center, we are going out to the Colonial Gardens in Phoenixville on 724 for the Haunted Hayride. So we're getting a group together, and we'll meet at the center. We'll carpool, so we'll get as many people in the vehicles as we can and get everybody out as a group. So if that's something you're interested in joining, contact me at the center and let me know, and we'll add you to the group. The more we have going, the less each ticket will be. I think the regular price is about $13. We're not charging anything else. It's just whatever the cost is to get in. It's just we want to make it fun by going as a group. And they do an amazing job if you haven't been out there before. Even if you're not going to come with us as the group, if you get a chance, go out there and check it out. They do an amazing job on their hayride. We also have our own party going on. Being as Halloween is falling on a Thursday, that makes it a little hard for some people to celebrate that night. So we're going to do ours Friday, which is going to be the 1st, and that's also All Hallows Day, All Saints Day, so we're kind of combining that a little bit. The whole day will be, if you come out in costume, you get a 10% discount on anything. We'll have snacks, Halloween-y type snacks and drinks available all day. I'll have candy to hand out to the kids, so bring them in for trick-or-treat. We'll have extra things going on. Our massage therapist will be there doing mini chair massages. We'll have extra readers there, so if you're looking to get a reading, that'd be a great day to come out. In the evening is when we are going to start our party. We're going to have costume contests probably around 7 o'clock, and all the people that are working there that day, including myself, will be in costume, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that. But we will do the costume contest probably around 7. We'll have, again, refreshments and food in between, and probably around 9 o'clock. We might have some games and stuff as well in between, but around 9 o'clock we're going to do a seance. We did this last year for our Halloween party then, and we had a really good time. It was great. We had a really big group, so we had quite a few people that joined in on that, and it was a good time. Everybody had a lot of fun. So it's going to be an evening about having fun and just finding the joy in being together and sharing it together. So those are the events. And there'll probably be more coming up, but those are all we have on the schedule for right now. We are coming towards the end of the month. So what's the radio show about? What are we here to talk about? Each week, other than the long distance Reiki show, I try to bring something in that is helping a variety of people with their spiritual growth, holistic health. We've done it just on community and the changes that have taken place in the dynamics of community. We've talked about crystals. I've had guests in for that. We've talked about the different types of readings that are out there. I had our palm reader come in and we did a guest show with her. We've done aromatherapy, different types of holistic healing, whether it's color therapy, vibration therapy. And we've talked about a lot of different things. Today, what I want to talk about today is being an empath. There's a lot of people, and I'm hearing more and more people coming into me and asking me about being an empath. They're a little lost, they're a little confused, and they're a little overwhelmed. And I think that's the biggest part, is they're overwhelmed. They're taking on so much. First, they're not even sure if they're an empath, but once we start talking about some of the things that they're going through, it's usually pretty obvious that they are. I think more and more people are becoming aware of being an empath. I'm not sure if it's just the energies out there are becoming stronger and we're becoming more susceptible to them, or if more people are awakening and becoming more in touch with what they are and what their gifts are. Not everybody looks at being an empath as a gift, because it becomes very overwhelming at times, and it can be almost scary, it can be draining. But once you learn a little bit more about it, a little bit more how to protect yourself, how to control it a little bit, you will find that it is indeed a gift. It is an amazing thing to have. It's a gift that you can use, when used wisely, to help other people and also to help yourself. So I want to start out by talking a little bit about how you know you're an empath. A lot of people out there see all these different things online, different questionnaires that you can take, and those are great, but there's a lot of questions that you can ask yourself, and they're pretty common sense. I know Lisa, our lovely lady over here that's working the cameras and the sound and everything, I asked her, we had talked a little bit about it before, so I asked her today if she feels that she's an empath, because I kind of got the feeling for a while that she kind of had that going on, and she said yes, she is. So I do have a few questions for her, and if she'd like to if she's willing to share a few of her experiences or what makes her feel that she's an empath. So Lisa, what's one of the biggest things that stands out to you that lets you know you're an empath?
I think that there's so many things. I don't think that there's one thing, because I always just wondered if I was just really sensitive. Even since I was a little kid, people would say, "Oh, you're so sensitive." I think that I'm sensitive to other people. I think sometimes when I'm around people, I take on their physical problems. And the first time I really noticed it for sure was my oldest son just turned 30. And he lived with us. Well, he lived with me all his life, but he went away to college, and then he was studying abroad, and then he came back home. And at the time, I didn't know this, but I kept on having these pains in my hip. And it was aching and aching and aching, and down my sciatic. And I'm like, oh, what is wrong with me? And then all of a sudden, like 2 months after me having this pain, my son finally says to me, "I've been having such pain in my hip and my leg." I was like, oh my God.
So you were picking up,
yes,
physically picking up.
I tend to physically pick up people's ailments.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand how that's even possible. Okay, once is one thing, but it happens all the time.
Well, they do say, too, being an empath, your connection to your children and to your family are always the strongest. I mean, that's just kind of common sense.
Right, yeah.
So you are going to pick that up first.
Well, you and I were talking about this last time. One of the other things is I define it as a room reader. When you come into a room, you just know things about people.
Mm-hmm.
And as women, we tend to not act on what we read when we come into a room because we don't want to be snobby.
Right.
We don't want to be judgmental. And we just, we put it off and go, "Oh, no, 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 no." And then something will happen, and we'll say,
we'll realize,
"Yeah, we know, we knew."
Listened.
And I think that would be something that is huge. First and foremost, when you feel those things, that's how you can tell you're an empath.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I define it as room reader, but what I mean is like, and we had talked about this before. If you're suppose you're in a restaurant and someone's standing behind you, you'd be able to feel the person behind you. You can read that energy.
Right.
You don't even have to know and see that they're behind you.
You can just feel it.
But you can feel it. And that's the same thing when you go into a room. Mm-hmm. You can feel people's energy. Now, you might not be able to know exactly what it is. You might not be able to know that exactly what's causing that energy, but it's there. Right. Nonetheless.
Yep.
And then what we, as women, tend to do is then we take it on ourselves. And then we say, it's me that's the problem. They don't like me. Or, oh, what did I do? What did I do wrong? We're feeling that energy and making it our own.
And not to generalize, that all women feel this, or that just women, but women are more sensitive to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you will find that there are a lot more women empaths out there than men, but there are plenty of men out there that also have it. I think they're just not as open to it. They don't like to expose their emotions as much, so
right.
They're not going to expose
and
other
they call it different
well.
Stuff. It's the same thing, but men, it's the macho. It just hasn't had a man hasn't come out and admitted it, but it's a macho thing.
Absolutely. And not all women are open to it. Not all men are open to it. So I can't say that everybody has that. Maybe they have it, but they're not open to it.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there with your saying they're not open to it. I think we all absolutely.
I think we do. It's just that not everybody is accepting
exactly.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. People think you have to be like a psychic to be empath. It's
right.
Two totally different things. We're not even talking about. We're not up the same thing, because I think empaths. I think it's. When you understand yourself, you understand others. Mm-hmm. So when you do the work on yourself, you have more empathy
for everybody else.
For everyone else.
Right.
And if you've done your work, you're more empathetic and you're more open to be able to see it in other people's lives, so you can actually maybe do something about it.
Now, the way you bring that up, that you can feel other people's things and that you can do something about it, and we'll get into this a little bit more too, do you find sometimes that it gets overwhelming, that it gets a little even scary?
I think, and I would say for me, no, only because I've known that I'm this way for a really, really long time.
And you've learned how to handle it.
Yeah. What it gets to me is I feel sometimes that I know things that how am I just making it up? Because I'll know things about people that I shouldn't, and I'm thinking, where do you think you are coming from, Lisa? Like, you know something, but I know that I'm right.
Right.
And I can't explain that to you. And that has nothing to do about being psychic. It's not that. It's a totally different thing.
Right.
It's being able to read the energy.
I think the other thing too, for me personally, where it gets a little frustrating sometimes is when you do feel things, but you can't do anything about it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's like you just want to reach out and either hug somebody or, tell them, and you can't because they're not open to it, or they're not accepting, or they're, one of the number one things I find, and these are some of the things that you can ask yourself if you're questioning if you're an empath. A lot of times you feel responsible for how other people feel. You know that somebody's hurting, or somebody's upset, or somebody's angry, or somebody's jealous, or whatever that emotion is. For some reason, you tend to feel like you had something to do with that. You may have caused it, or maybe you said something. It really doesn't have anything to do with you, but there's a part of you that feels like you had something to do with it. You're in some way responsible for what they're feeling. And with that said, you now want to fix it. You now want to take care of it. You now want to, you feel like you need to do something. You go out of your way to make them feel better because for some reason you feel partly responsible. Even though you may not have said anything, there's a little part in the back of your head that's saying, what did I do? Did I do something to cause them to be upset? Did I do something? Did they misunderstand something that I said? And here it may not have anything to do with you, but you automatically take that on.
That's the biggest burden.
You automatically
of
take it on.
being an empath. Yes. Yes, that is a tremendous burden. Yeah. So what you were saying in just a few moments ago, if there's, stressful or, confusing, that would be the biggest burden and biggest hurdle.
Is getting over the fact that it may not be, and it may not, it's not you. It's, and separating yourself from that and saying, well, maybe they're just upset for something completely different.
Right. And to me, that's a doorway into our own spirituality, is not taking on that, but being able to give the gift of understanding people, but then realizing that we take it on ourselves. And to me, that's an open door. That's a doorway for us to be connected to ourselves. Like, why do we do that?
Right.
Why do we do that?
Exactly.
And like you said, usually empaths do that.
And I think another thing you can ask yourself is, do you find yourself always being in the counselor role? Are people always coming to you and dumping their emotions on you? They're coming to you with, their hurts and their fears, and, and you end up sitting and playing the counselor for them a lot. And I think that's where a lot of readers end up in that role of playing the reader, because we find people coming to us and looking for, 90% of my readings that I do end up being some kind of a counseling session. Mm-hmm. And I think when you're an empath, people just know that, and they just
there's no mistake. There's no mistake that they come to you.
Right. It's like you put that out there, they feel it, and they come to you. It's almost like a beacon. You're a little beacon going off for people to come to you. Mm-hmm. I think another thing empaths tend to do is putting your own needs last. Everybody else always comes first. You really have a tendency to always worry about everybody else being taken care of. And it's not just about like being a mom and making sure the kids are fed before you are. This is everybody around you. Everybody around you comes first. You always worry about their needs before yours. And that's another thing that empaths have to find that boundary with, because you can't always do that. You end up draining yourself. You're shorting yourself. And sometimes it can even turn to resentment, not intentionally, but you end up feeling resentment to all these people that you're putting first.
Absolutely.
But you've got to take responsibility for that, because you're the one that's putting them first.
And then having that conflict of being an empath, what ends up happening is you become an unhealed healer.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Because everything's always going out to everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you're resentful, and then what you end up putting out is when you explode, you go out and then you feel so guilty for them doing what you're doing.
And you're always so worried about being selfish. Anytime that you want to do for yourself.
Isn't that the truth?
It's like, am I being selfish?
Oh, my
Those
goodness.
are big signs for being an empath. You're always so worried that if you're doing any little thing for yourself, that you're being selfish, that you're taking away from other people.
If you think you're an empath, you're an empath.
That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. It's most likely, because that desire usually isn't in your heart unless it's, because my husband has no desire to be an empath, because the desire is not in his heart. He has no question. He would never even think to ask, "Am I an empath?"
Right.
Because the desire is not in his heart, and the desire is there, and the question is there for a reason.
It's a good way to put it. I think another thing, too, with empaths is not just even the people immediately around us. You start to feel so much about the world around us. You have a hard time watching the news anymore, because all the bad things that are happening, all the pain that you're seeing going on out there, you start to tend to take that on, and you want to go out and save the world. And you have to separate yourself a little bit from it, because it does become too painful. Other people sit there and they have no trouble. They can't wait to turn the news on and see what drama is going on out there. But an empath will have a hard time watching all the things that are going on in the news. It hurts. It genuinely hurts.
Empaths tend to smoke too.
You think so?
Yep. Tend to.
I mean, I used to, but I did
They
quit.
tend to. Yeah, I quit too.
And you know what? Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think before, when I had the empath going on, and this was before I even started doing readings, and before I started getting into doing Reiki, I smoked quite a bit.
Same here.
But I think once I've realized what was going on, once I started to learn how to control it and not to let it control me, that's when I was actually able to quit smoking.
It's funny, right?
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That is. It's just like they say that smokers tend to not wear their seatbelts.
Now that I do wear, but I don't like it.
But you're not a smoker.
Not anymore.
You're no
no.
longer a smoker. But there's some correlations along with it. But an empath, I think that there's something to it. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's just an observation that I've made. That the people that are like
to investigate and look into.
Yeah, that tend to be smoke. They smoke, and they also tend to get cancer. I don't know if you know that.
I did not.
And the reason is because they take, for the reasons that we're talking about, they hold it in. They hold
so much in, and that's another reason why you want to start learning how to protect yourself and only really turn it on when you need it, and
your chakra work, like you talk about, your chakra work is huge, and it's really
very important. And that's also part of what I'm going to go through here, is a little bit with your chakras when it comes to getting yourself balanced and grounded and turning this on and off.
Empaths they tend to be smokers. They tend to, not necessarily drinkers, but empaths and psychics die from cancer.
It's a great observation. A scary one, but
yes, but nonetheless, it's because of those things they do from cancer. And there was one other thing too that I know that they had, and that was the COPD. But I think that's just from the smoking. If you smoked, but those types of things, in certain body parts, they tend to.
And another thing too that a lot of times with empaths, and this is another thing you can ask yourself too. You tend to get into relationships very quickly and very heavy. It's like a very quick, fast, heavy relationship. And that's friends, romantic, business, whatever that type of relationship is. You get too close too fast, and then you end up getting hurt. And I think that's a kind of a repeated thing with empaths. So if you find yourself asking, am I an empath? And you find that, yeah, I've had that pattern in my life where I've gotten into relationships very quickly and very fast, and then they ended badly. You're an empath. For some reason, empaths just draw themselves in really quick. And maybe it's that emotional connection, that brings it in quick. But it usually doesn't end well.
Right. And they might not necessarily have all of those characteristics that we're talking about.
It's just some of these.
But just some of them. But I can see how that happens. Having that empathic thing myself, it took me a long time to stop doing that.
It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, when you're so used to doing that all your life, and you don't even realize most of the time that you're doing it, that you're taking on other people's emotions and other people's feelings, and even physical issues, as you were speaking about earlier. Some people are so empathic that they do pick up the physical issues of people. If you're around certain people, and every time you're around these certain people you get a headache, or you get a backache, or like you were having the problem with your hip and your sciatica, if you're finding yourself having that, especially around certain people, you'll probably find out that these people are having that problem too.
Well, you know how kids, when we were little, when we'd be in a situation where we knew someone didn't want us to be there, like an adult. You know that feeling?
Absolutely.
It's heavy,
yes.
And it's tangible, and you felt not wanted.
Yeah.
All those other feelings that we're talking about, they don't feel like that, but they're tangible like that. And if you pay attention to it, and if you can even understand what we're talking about, then you know how to read a room. You are empathic. You are picking up on energy.
Yep. And everything has energy in it.
Right.
It's just how
and we
your
have to
vibration works with it.
Right. And sometimes my mistake, the reason I said this, because I think I've made a few mistakes. I read the energy because I could feel that negative vibration, but I put my story to it.
And that's the
and
part
that's
of, like,
where
making,
the problem. Yes, that's
like
where
said,
the problem lies.
Like, I have something to do with it. It's
yes.
You always seem to connect yourself to other people's hurt and pain.
Yes,
that you somehow caused it, or it was for some reason it was about you.
It was my story. Yeah, that I could feel the energy, but because it felt like something that I maybe had or experienced when I was younger, I put a story behind it, not knowing any facts.
Right.
And I went with that story for a long time in different situations. Oh, she's a or oh, who she thinks she is. Because I felt not necessarily that I wasn't wanted, but I felt a similar energy field.
Right. And you put it on yourself.
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
I mean, it's kind of like I think I said this, was it last week or the week before, about the laundry. Being an empath, what you would tend to do is somebody comes to you with a bag of laundry, and the laundry would not be their emotions or their feelings, but they come to you with a big bag of laundry, and you help them fold it, and you help them put it back in the bag, but where it should stop is right there. They should be allowed to carry that bag away. It's their bag. They need to carry that away with them, but a lot of times an empath will carry the bag for them. And It's learning where to draw those lines. Let them carry that. It's theirs. You've helped them by helping them to fold it. You've listened to them. You've let them unload those feelings. You've let them vent. And sometimes that's all that's needed, is for them to have an ear. Now, sometimes we can give advice. We can give our opinions. It's never about telling somebody what they should or shouldn't do, because that is their choice. We can tell them of our own experiences and how things may have affected us, but we're not telling them what they should do with it. We're just giving them other tools that they can use, and that's part of helping them fold the laundry. But once it's back in that bag, that's for them to carry it, not for you. So what can we do when we are empathic to protect ourselves, or to stop ourselves from taking in so much that it starts to affect us, that it starts to take away from our happy? That when you walk into a room where people are angry or frustrated, and you're happy as can be, but you walk into this room, and because everybody else is feeling this anger or frustration, or maybe even if it's just one person in that room that's feeling the anger or the frustration or the distress of any kind, you walk into that room and you start feeling that. Well, why should you give up your happy? Why should you have to feel what they feel? Learning to acknowledge it and understand it, but not feel it, is what's important. We all need to be compassionate. We all need to be understanding. So we don't want to completely give up that empathic gift, because that's what it is. It's a gift. It was given to you to be able to assist other people, and also to assist in your own growth by assisting other people and learning from other people. So what we want to learn to do is exactly that. We want to learn to acknowledge it, be compassionate if we need to be, but to not take it on. To be able to give it back. One of the things that we can start with is learning to center yourself. And that's something that you should be doing on a regular basis, not just when you're starting to feel overwhelmed. Centering yourself is something you should be doing all the time anyway. But you'll find if you start centering yourself and grounding yourself, it's going to be a lot easier to do the rest of the steps to protect yourself. All right, so how do we ground ourselves? How do we center ourselves? Meditation is a wonderful way to get yourself centered. There are meditations specifically for grounding. One of the ones that I love to do for grounding is, if it's a meditation, is just to picture yourself as a tree, or picture yourself leaning up against a tree and just melting into the tree and becoming part of that tree, or becoming the tree, and visualizing the roots going down through your legs, out through your feet, into the ground, and just going deep into the ground, right into Mother Earth. And you're drawing up the energy, you're drawing up the nutrients and everything that you can from Mother Earth. Although we always have to remember, if you're going to be receiving, you need to be giving as well. There has to be a balance. So we send love and nurturing back. So it's kind of like a circle. We send the love and the nurturing into Mother Earth through the roots, and we pull her love and nurturing back up through the roots into ourselves. So it's a circle. It's a give and a take. Another thing is simply just going out and getting your feet in the dirt. Go to the beach. Get your feet in the sand. I'm going to be doing that in a couple days, and I'm so looking forward to it. Walk barefoot in the grass if it's not too cold. But actually getting in and getting your feet in the dirt, getting grounded. Another thing you can do is working on your chakras, as we talked a little bit earlier. If you're not familiar with the chakras, you need to learn a little bit more about them, especially if you're an empath. You need to know what each of the chakras are and the different energies that each of these chakras carry, because when you're feeling the different energies from other people, that energy that you're feeling is going to be absorbed and held in the appropriate chakra within you. So you need to know which chakra holds what. You need to know how to feel each one, how to balance it, how to clear it. So you definitely need to study that a little bit if you're not familiar with them. There's a lot of information out online for that. We do have classes at the center sometimes on the chakras. When we teach a Reiki class, we include the chakra information, the basics, in a level 1. We also have a more advanced chakra workshop here and there. If anybody's interested, I don't have one scheduled now, but if you're interested in learning more, if I have enough people that would like to do that, I'll definitely put one together soon. There'll probably be another one coming up in maybe a month or so, but if you're interested sooner, I'll certainly put something together. But it's very important to learn the information about the chakras if you're an empath. A lot of times, too, you want to think about your thoughts and your intentions when you're trying to stay grounded and stay centered. With our chakras or our energy points, or however you want to look at them for right now, your own energy field. If you think a negative thought will deplete energy from your energy field. So the more negative thoughts you have, the lower your energy becomes, the more susceptible you are to other people's energy, the more you're taking in of theirs, because it's almost like weakening your field and allowing it to come through. When you think positive thoughts, when you're telling yourself things that are truth, your truth, that empowers your energy, that strengthens your energy. So the more positive thoughts you have, the more truths you tell yourself, the stronger you make your own energy. And the stronger your energy is, the harder it is for other energy to penetrate that energy field unless you want it to come through. So it's very important to have positive affirmations that you're telling yourself every day, little truths that you can write down and tell yourself every day. That's important to keep your energy up. Some of the things that you can do, too, just really simple things, are just quieting your mind and breathing. Even if you just do it for a couple minutes, just taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out, just to quiet your mind for a couple minutes. It doesn't mean going into a long half-hour guided meditation. It's just take a couple minutes to breathe and clear your mind. It helps you to get grounded and it helps you to focus. Once you learn about your chakras a little bit more, a great one to work with for grounding and centering is your root chakra. That's one you want to keep balanced, and the one above that is your sacral. That's another one that's very important when you're trying to stay centered, to keep that balanced. Another thing that you can do is thinking about the energy that you put out and the energy you pull in. You can actually visualize yourself pushing energy out and pulling energy in. You can picture energy wrapping around you. These are just little things that you can take a couple minutes to do. Another thing that you can do is working with your heart chakra. And again, this all comes down to learning more about the chakras, but your heart chakra is another thing that you want open. But you don't want it too open, because when it's too open, again, that's when you're feeling other people's emotions. You're allowing other people's emotions to get pulled into your heart. And we don't want to take too much of that in. So we want to learn how to keep that balanced, to keep it open enough that we are still loving and giving, but without taking too much of that in. Now, some of the other things that you can do are, if you work with the angels at all, Archangel Michael is a great one for protection. One thing that I like to do is to call in Archangel Michael, and just a really quick little prayer that you can say out loud, and it's just a one little little liner. You call in Archangel Michael and ask him, remove all energies and emotions that are not mine. Very simple. Archangel Michael, remove all energies and emotions that are not mine. So be it, or amen, or however you like to end your prayers. But Michael is the one that's the warrior. He's the one with the sword. He's the protector. So he's great to have around you to help protect, bringing in that energy that's not yours, and to remove cords and everything else that empaths tend to get stuck with. Cords is another whole thing that we could talk about, but we only have so much time today, so we're not going to get into those. Another thing that you can do to make it a little bit easier is awareness. Awareness about being an empath. Awareness about what's triggering it for you. You can ask yourself, what triggers my empathy? When I walk into a room, is it somebody's emotions? When I walk past people, is it the pain? Ask yourself what types of things you're picking up. When you become more aware of the types of things you're picking up, it becomes easier to start putting the defenses up for those things and to only take them in when you're ready. But you need to be aware of what they are before you know what to do with them. You need to be aware of your energy field. You need to be aware of whether it's open or whether it's closed. And that again comes to the centering and the grounding. You need to know about your boundaries. You need to set boundaries for yourself. I'm not going to allow this. I'm not going to allow that. And you can put those into your affirmations as well. You set some boundaries for yourself as to how you are taking on other people's feelings. Affirmations with the boundaries can be something about, just because I'm feeling a hurt and pain does not mean it's me that's causing that. Just because I'm feeling somebody's hurt does not make it about me. But start saying the affirmations where you're starting to draw boundaries, and you can make up your own. Figure out what triggers those emotions. Is it, if you find out that watching things on TV, watching certain shows triggers those strong empathic feelings, well then common sense says don't watch those shows. Find something else. Find something that brings happy feelings. Don't set yourself up. If you know that, dealing with loved ones, if there's certain ones that are going through a lot of trauma and a lot of grief, and that's what triggers it, just be aware of what it is that's triggering these things for you. Again, just learn a little bit more about it and learn a little bit more about yourself. Learn what types of things you're feeling. Another thing that you want to do when you're dealing with empathy is learning the difference between unconscious and conscious choice. You have to practice, and it is a lot of practice. It's a lot of work, but it's well worth it. It's learning how to turn it on and turn it off. Learning to notice when it's starting to happen and to separate from it. It's learning to control your own energy. It's learning to control what you're taking in, when you're taking it in. You don't have to feel guilty about turning it off. That's something that I know some empaths have come to me and they've said, it's overwhelming and I don't know what to do with it. I'm taking on too much. And I start talking to them about turning it off and learning how to work that switch. And right away but if I turn it off, then I'm not going to be able to help anybody. I'm not going to be aware if somebody comes to me and needs something. You're not turning it off permanently. You're giving yourself a break that you need at times. Now, if somebody comes to you and you know that they're coming to you with a problem, then you can turn it back on. You don't have to leave it off. You just don't want to be picking up everything that's out there. It's too much. And it's just filtering it a little bit, letting in things that are more important, things that you may have some control over, and learning to not take in the things that you have no control over. There's nothing you can do to fix it, at least not right now. So again, don't feel like you're being selfish to turn it off now and then and to give yourself a break. Another thing that you can do, and again, there's so much more that we can talk about, but we're kind of getting short on time here. I want you to recognize that the energy that you're feeling is not necessarily yours. If you're in a great mood and all of a sudden your mood goes to poop, now you're miserable, you're angry, you're frustrated, and you've got no clue why, because a few minutes ago you were feeling great. Realize and understand that that may not be your energy. You may be picking up somebody else's energy. Give it back to them. Even if you don't know who it is, give it back. Recognize that that energy is not yours, and you don't have to carry it. Sometimes what you can do with that to help you get past that, because I know sometimes it is hard to jump from, being in a great mood to all of a sudden being in a bad mood, or feeling a physical pain even, and you don't know where it's coming from. And sometimes it is hard to get away from that. So try to find yourself a focus point. Try to find a thought, a picture, something that is a happy thing. Always have this one thing that's happy for you, whether it's, unicorns or butterflies or glitter, hearts, whatever little image works for you. Whether it's a real simple little pink heart or whether it's as complicated as a beach scene with a sunset and the waves and the sand, and you make it as detailed or as simple as you want. But when you find yourself getting into a situation where because now you're starting to learn to recognize it, and you realize you're suddenly feeling an energy that's not yours, try to switch that off by picturing that happy thought. Sometimes just having a trigger helps you to shut that off. And it's not about going mentally to that beach or focusing so much on that pretty sparkly heart. It's just a trigger to turn that switch off, to make you realize, okay, this is not my energy. I don't have to hold it. And having something pleasant to help you switch that sometimes is a big help. So just focus on that. Think about that picture. Another thing that you want to do is not exposing yourself to hot spots. Stop and think about where your hot spots might be. For some people, it's going to a mall. And that doesn't mean don't ever go shopping at a mall. It just means limit yourself. Try to find times when it may be quieter. Sometimes it's going to a movie. Think about when you feel more exposed.
Grocery store.
Grocery store.
On a Sunday.
Yes.
It's really bad.
Yes.
It's very chaotic.
I think a lot of times, too, a grocery store on a Sunday, for me, when I avoid doing that.
Oh, I can't do it anymore.
I avoid doing that
My
because
fingers swell and I get so aggravated.
I think what I would pick up mostly is a feeling of loneliness.
That in casinos is the same way.
Yeah, it's there, especially like you said, on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
There's a grocery store on a Sunday. I think are a lot of people that are single. There may be a lot of older people that are on their own. They don't have a lot of family, and that seems to be the time for those people to go out and do their shopping, and they're carrying those emotions with them. So I try to go odd times when I know there's not going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
Go in, go out, get it done, and get out. And just don't expose yourself to places that you feel it so much. There are times when you're not going to be able to avoid it. You got a family party coming up. You got to go. There's going to be things you're going to be picking up and feeling. again, just learn how to recognize it's not yours and you don't have to carry it. And there's so much more that we can get into. There's a lot of information out there. Learning a lot about it for yourself. Learn what you can. Become aware of it. Learn about the chakras and about the energy. You'll find that's so helpful when it comes to dealing with being an empath and keeping things balanced. Now, what do you find, Lisa, is one of the easiest things for you to distance yourself or to shut it off? Do you have anything that you use as a trigger, or any advice that you can give them out there that we haven't mentioned?
Well, I guess the hardest thing for me would be, well, it used to be, was realizing that I was in it. And one of the things that I've learned to do is the moment that I feel uncomfortable, any type of uncomfortable, any type of agitation, I realize that I'm off center. And the body has this amazing way to show us that something's wrong. Mm-hmm. And that is, even if it's the slightest irritation, like, did she just take my pencil? You know, mm-hmm. that is, did you hear what she just said about me?
Yeah.
Those are the things that I'm talking about. Like, so when I use my body as an indicator that something's askew, mm-hmm. and I know this might be weird, but I pay attention to my breathing, and I feel the air as it comes in through my nostrils. I'll usually pick a nostril, mm-hmm. and I'll pay attention to how that feels. Because you can't be focusing on that and go in that slope. You know that slope.
It's bringing yourself into the present moment. Yes. And bringing your thought to yourself. Yeah,
because you can't have fear, you can't have anxiety, you can't have all those feelings and be in the present moment at the same time.
Exactly.
So that's how I practice pulling myself to center and it's just that, or I'll feel the air come as it brushes up over my lip. And if I can focus that, and if I can give that a little bit of time, it usually passes.
It's like I said earlier, just as simple as the breathing for a couple minutes, and Absolutely. That's what you're doing. And mm-hmm. even if it's just telling yourself in as you're breathing in and out as you're breathing out, or paying attention to how it's filling your lungs and your stomach, and making sure that everything expands as you breathe in and everything contracts as you breathe out. Or like Lisa does, paying attention to as it's coming through and how it feels. Your focus then goes from the emotions that you were feeling to what's going on with yourself. You're focused more on the breath, and it's just taking you briefly away from where your thought was, and it's shutting that off.
Mm-hmm. And it's letting it actually flow through you. Another thing that I occasionally do is, because sometimes our thoughts are painful. Mm-hmm. They might not be justifiably painful, but nonetheless, they're painful.
And sometimes they're justifiably painful.
Right, but sometimes they're not.
Right.
But it's because it doesn't matter is my point.
Right.
And is pain, acknowledging that I'm in pain. Mm-hmm. And when you acknowledge that you're actually having physical pain, it kind of takes it away from you.
And that's where that truth comes in, like I was saying earlier,
yes.
by being truthful to yourself, telling yes. yourself a truth. And if it's pain that you're feeling, tell yourself you're feeling pain.
Yeah, I'm feeling pain. That's literally what I do.
If you have a headache, tell mm-hmm. yourself, I have an awful headache. I have an awful headache. I have an awful headache. And you'll find the headache starts to dissipate. Mm-hmm. It's that truth starts to expand your energy field.
Right.
It starts to strengthen your
right.
energy field.
Even your emotional pain. Because, if you hear someone whispering, right? Two ladies whispering. And you have this inclination to always assume that they're talking about you.
Empathic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's still painful mm-hmm. to think that someone's saying something bad about you.
Yeah, that they have any reason to.
And you're going to go through the same pain you did the first time it ever happened to you. Mm-hmm. So one of the ways to kind of stop that is is to be present by saying pain, 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 because you're acknowledging that I'm in pain and I'm going to go react from that part of me that's in pain. And I don't want to put that painful part of me back into the universe. And it just gives you a little bit of time.
And don't turn it into lying to yourself, you know, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I feel great, I feel great, I feel great. You don't. So be honest about it. You know, be truthful to yourself. Tell yourself your own truth and just let it go.
And one of the good things is you're the expert on you. You don't need to read any books. You don't need to take any class. You don't need money. You don't need your friends' approval. This is all your inner work that can be done in the privacy of your own mind.
Yeah. And nobody knows you better than
nobody you. Yeah. And you're the expert. I don't need anybody else. Nobody else needs to tell you about you being the expert on you, because you are. You just have to pay attention and realize you're the expert and see what it is that you do and pay attention to what it is you do when you're in pain.
Understand yourself a little bit better.
Yeah.
So again, there's so much more that we can talk about. There's so many more things that we could cover with this, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions floating around out there. If you have any that we didn't answer, give me a call at the center or drop me a message on Facebook. Again, you can reach me at the center at 484-624-8095, or, like I said, reach out to me on Facebook too. So we're going to bring our show to an end, but don't turn off the channel because there's still some great shows coming up. You can leave this channel on all evening and be entertained and enlightened and learn a lot of wonderful things. We have Paranormal Frequency right after this show from 5 to 6. We have Mystic Talks from 6 to 7. Heaven Talks from 7 to 8:30. And Beyond the Veil from 8:30 to 9:30. So you've got your whole evening planned out and taken care of. You don't need to even turn the TV on. So forget about the TV and just stay tuned in here all night. But I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and sharing their time with us today, and I look forward to sharing more with you next week. I'm not sure what the topic is yet, but check out on Facebook, and as soon as I come up with something, I kind of like to fly by the seat of my pants and throw it out there at the last minute. But I look forward to seeing you, so you guys have a wonderful evening, have a great week, and be blessed.